Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of Midnight Texas, as well as the series premiere of Somewhere Between. Like always, if I'm talking about something that you want to listen to, you can always look in the description down below. I include the time when I start talking about each of the respective shows. So, for example, if you don't want to hear what I had to say about the series premiere of Midnight Texas, you can skip to what I had to say about the series premiere of Somewhere Between. Well, the first thing we're going to talk about is Midnight Texas. A very, very good series premiere. I kind of went into this not really knowing what to really expect. I knew it was kind of a weird supernatural thing. It wasn't until I started seeing more previews that I found out it's actually by the books that this series is based on is the same author who wrote, I think they're called the Sookie Stackhouse books, the books that True Blood was based on. So that was kind of cool to find out. But immediately we get introduced to our main protagonist, Manfred. He seems kind of like a psychic dude. It's like, oh yeah, you pay me and I can connect you with your loved ones and stuff like that. But it turns out it's not like he's a fake psychic. It's like, no, he's really in tune, and basically he's on the run. Like I said, more so than anything, this it's supposed to be an introduction to the characters, kind of letting you get to know them, and you kind of get to know Midnight. Really quickly, right off the bat, there are a lot of familiar actors in this. First of all, the main protagonist, he played Oscar in season 1 of Blind Spot. You have Bobo, who is Dylan Bruce, Paul from Orphan Black. There's Olivia. And now I see her in stuff all the time, but like, I think probably the most recent thing I've seen her in, because she's made her characters pop back up from time to time, was in The Vampire Diaries. She played Lexi. I feel like I also know like the Reverend. I feel like I've seen that in something else too. But nevertheless, going back to the main story, now that I got my little acting thing out of the way, there's others too, but I feel like I've spent too much time on that already. But immediately finding out that Midnight, it's not just any regular town. Immediately meeting Lemuel, who is a vampire. And it's so interesting. Immediately we kind of go, oh, vampires are a little differently. For one, he's got the glowing blue eyes. They feed a little differently. It seems like they can touch you and they kind of suck your life force out. It seems like that's kind of like an appetizer, and then like biting into your neck is a full course meal, because I guess it's like once they start biting into your neck, well, it's more like a warm fresh meal is kind of how I feel like Lemuel kind of puts it. But it's like he can dine on you a little bit by touching you, and that's enough to kind of like make him feel a little refreshed. I don't know if it really counts as like a full meal or something like that, or whether it kind of counts as a snack. It does, because I was kind of under the impression, I was like, I knew it would be like some supernatural stuff in it, but I didn't realize there would actually just be regular folk amongst the main cast, because Bobo and Olivia are both humans too, but they have their own things going on. Because it seems like Olivia's running from her dad, because she was asking him, like, oh, so was my dad saying here? He's like, Manfred's like, what the hell are you talking about, your dad? Why are your dad? What? She seems pretty skilled with a bow, the way she shot that dude with an arrow in the episode, so she's very well trained. She's got a shit ton of guns too, so whoever her dad is, you could definitely tell he's very dangerous. Now, it makes you wonder, is the whole gun situation just for protection against her dad for whatever reason, or is that more so like just a hobby, or has she always been like that, or is that just her arsenal in preparation for her dad, or just anything that might go wrong in Midnight Texas? Because what's interesting too is like there are people who outside of Midnight who know about Midnight. It seems like most people who live in Midnight are probably something else. Because everyone's kind of like, yeah, you stay away from Midnight. Because there's like the sheriffs that we meet in this episode. Because I wasn't expecting it all to start with a murder mystery. Because there's a lady named Aubrey who ends up getting killed. She's actually Bobo's wife. I know he proposed to her, but I can't remember if she's actually his wife or not. I think so. But like that's what kind of sparks like the cops getting involved in everything. And even one of the cops is like, yeah, we don't actually work out here in Midnight. We're actually from a different place, but Midnight falls in our jurisdiction. There are kids who literally dare each other to come here. Midnight is that much of a crazy place, because they're asking like, she's asking like, Manfred, why are you here? He's like, oh, just quiet places. Like, Midnight, it's weird, right? So we've only gotten introduced to the main characters, but the fact is that they talk about midnight like that. It seems like everyone in town has got something going, especially the Reverend, because you have someone like Creek. Seems like they're already setting her up to be possible love interest for Manfred, but they kind of set her up to be like, yeah, things aren't normal in this town. She's like, I already know people are, there's something different about everyone else. Like, whether she knows, it seems like she knows, but maybe it's just like she knows there's something weird there, but she doesn't care because it's still home to her. I mean, granted, she's not originally from here, but her dad brought her here after her mom died, and then there's a whole situation of him being overprotective, which immediately makes my brain go, she must be something, like, she's probably not human, and whatever she is, like, he's trying to keep people at a distance for their own safety, not just being a strict father, or maybe something, whatever she is, kind of comes out when she gets close contact. You know, maybe she ends up having, like, I mean, throwing it out there, I would assume this might be kind of fitting that role just because of Lost Girl kind of has it in my head, a succubus. Maybe the moment she touches someone, it kind of turns into a whole Rogue from X-Men situation where she starts draining them, like, the life force from somebody the moment she touches them. Maybe that's what it is? Because I'm trying to think, did they ever actually touch the entire episode? They met and everything, but I don't think they actually touched. So, I mean, and even then, maybe it's something that's dormant inside of her that hasn't really awoken yet. I mean, I don't know. Once again, it just could be the fact is that her dad's very strict, but they go to the extremes. That, like, she's talking to, like, Manfred at the counter. He's like, baby, why don't you go deal with something else? What's up with you, dude? Why are you up in my daughter's business like that? So, I don't know. You got to find out Joe's got wings. And I also appreciate it's not just wings. His actual, like, his wings grow out his back and then he form with his arms. I would assume that's his husband, Chewie. I didn't really know, like, I don't know. I don't want to, assume. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It seems like definitely, like, Aubrey was kind of like the odd duck out. Like, even though Olivia and Bobo are humans, they're, like, Lemuel describes them as very open-minded, so, I mean, even then they've got their own secrets, like Olivia, the whole gun situation, and then you have Bobo. Apparently he's, like, the nicest dude, but then he has, like, this, like, metal door that goes to somewhere, like, out and about, and it's in the, it's got, like, a padlock on it and everything, so, like, he's got, like, a bunker or something, like, whatever's in there. I don't know whether that's something that Aubrey had that he knew about they were trying to get access to, or is it something of his? I mean, the way he was just jiggling the lock like that, it seemed like it might have been something he just, like he knew about, that maybe I don't know, maybe she had the key or something like that. I don't know. The Reverend himself, I should kind of comment on the fact is, it's like, what's up with the whole pet cemetery thing he's got going on? And the fact is that he's super strong because he's carrying, like, it looked like maybe a cow, easily dragging it like it's nothing. So it's like, he's definitely got something going on, which immediately my brain goes, like, are we talking some Frankenstein monster or something? He immediately knew exactly who Manfred was, like, because that Manfred came to him, came, quote unquote, stealing holy water. He's like, oh, I know what you are and what you do. And he's like, okay. And that was kind of an interesting thing, too, is Manfred has yet to actually tell anyone what it is that he does, like, what makes him weird. Because I'm guessing, like, Fiji only set him up here because as a favor to his grandma. Maybe his grandma called in some favors or something like that. Because it's like, it seems like even she doesn't know that much about Manfred. Like, maybe, like, he called a contact of his grandma's, and that contact got him in contact with Fiji. So, because even she doesn't really know that much about him. And speaking of Fiji, we see immediately from that she is a witch. And even her and Olivia are joking. She's like, hey, I'm surprised you didn't poison him. It's like, I can tell he doesn't have any bad intentions. Well, how can you be so sure? It's like, well, if he had any bad intentions, the cookies I gave him wouldn't there to actually be, he would get poisoned if he actually had any bad intentions. But getting back to what I was saying, it's like he is hiding from them what he can do. Even though he sees that there's all this other stuff around, he's not quite yet ready to let other people know, like, there's something going on with him. Because anytime the subject came up about, like, oh yeah, like, the fact is he talked to Aubrey and everything, it just never really, he just never said anything. I was like, you see all the stuff that's going on, you see Lemuel, you understand what he is, but you don't say what you are. I just think that's kind of interesting. I mean, it's not like he wouldn't be accepted. I mean, by the time the end of the episode rolls around, he's like, I'll help out. So he might come forward for about his whole ability. But it's definitely interesting how it seems like death works in this universe, because it seems like the way you die kind of reflects how you are in death too. Kind of similar to like a Frighteners type of situation. Like, for instance, Aubrey, like, she's constantly got water pouring out of her throat because she ultimately died from being, like, by drowning. So, I mean, also in Aubrey's, has a few skeletons in her closet, because it turns out she's married to a biker group, a gang of bikers known as the Sons of Lucifer. Like, one of them she was actually married to before she married Bobo, which is kind of like now coming out. So, it seems like with this whole situation of what Manfred can do, it seems kind of like almost a hit and miss type of situation of like, unless he actively tries to go for it, it doesn't seem like, because for him, he even explains it to Creek. He's like, yeah, it's kind of like, there's some of it that's real, the whole like psychic thing. And then there's other parts where it's just kind of like for show. Like, especially like at the beginning, like helping out that lady. Beginning of it was all for show, but then it started getting serious the moment she started bringing up stuff. And her husband kind of got like super pissed about it. Like, oh, you're sleeping with my friend. You're moving on. How long has that been going on? So, because it seems like it's like, I feel like his powers have kind of manifested to a certain extent, like even more so because of Midnight. And they immediately explain it. It's like Midnight, it's literally on like one of those magical ley lines type of things. So that's why the town's so special. It's like there's some people that come and go, but for other people that are kind of that world, they decide to stay and make, Midnight their own. I mean, it doesn't seem like they actually have like a full-on supernatural detective, someone to kind of, it seems like that might be what role Manfred kind of plays in this whole town. Like that might be his role of like kind of acting as like detective to help solve crimes and solve problems around town. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking too far ahead. So, I don't know if I mentioned this, I've never actually read the books that these are based on, which should come as no surprise because I'm not really big into reading books and stuff like that. It's a whole thing. But what I meant is, like, it seems like his powers have manifested because he ends up calling up Aubrey to be like, okay, yeah, let's talk. Well, I mean, without obviously taking precautions first. He puts ash around him. Part of my mind immediately goes, just because of my Teen Wolf knowledge, I was like, is that supposed to be mountain ash specifically? I don't know. He adds holy water on top of it, so maybe it's just ash in general. And I also appreciate the fact that he kind of uses a Ouija board. I guess it makes it a lot easier to well, I mean, he probably can usually talk to ghosts, but I guess it's there specifically for other circumstances. Because, I mean, it seems like that situation was more precaution because of earlier in the episode getting, in the terms his grandma used, hijack. And also, I mean, it seems like his grandma only died like a year ago, but it makes you wonder exactly at what point did all his powers kind of like kick in? Has he always been able to see ghosts, or is it just kind of as he got older type of thing? Because Lemuel was talking about his grandma too. It's like, oh yeah, like he actually knew her. She actually came to Midnight before. That's why she was able to tell, like, oh yeah, Midnight would be a good place for you. So it makes you wonder why was she so famous to the point that someone like Lemuel would actually know about her. Because a way, I guess maybe it's him hiding the fact of what she could really do. Because he's like, oh yeah, my grandma, she scammed a lot of people and stuff like that. It seems like that's what he's running from too. There's someone known as Hightower. Basically, his grandma owes them money, and because of that, he's trying to pay it off. But she dropped dead the last year, so now it's a situation of now the debt's his to pay. So he's on the run, and Midnight, Texas is supposed to be the place like, hey, he can hide out. Now, whether that's 100% true or not, I don't know. Like, obviously, he's hiding, like I brought up earlier, he's hiding his own abilities. So who to say Zelda wasn't the same way and she could actually talk to ghosts and be connected to spirits and stuff like that. So maybe there's more to this Hightower situation. I don't know. Like, I feel like he said it is definitely connected to money, but, maybe there is more to it. I mean, there definitely has to be more to it than this. Who is this Hightower person anyway? And what and like how much money does Manfred owe him? Something I was bringing up earlier, but I completely got sidetracked, was the fact is, because of the whole like ley line situation in Midnight, the veil between life and death is very small. So obviously, it's probably a lot easier to contact spirits and a lot easier for spirits to contact you, because even when he was walking in the pawn shops, like Manfred's powers were kind of activating and all the objects were kind of talking to him. I don't know whether it's like he can call to a specific object because of its history, if it has like a certain history, or were we just not able to see the ghosts? Maybe they were kind of on the other side to an extent. Like they're on the side of death, but obviously their voices are echoing over into the world of the living, and he's catching it almost like he's a radio signal from the other side. That's what I was wondering. Or is it just the history, maybe like the negative energy that is tied to those objects, and that history kind of hits him like that? I was just curious about it. Definitely doesn't seem like a normal pawn shop that Bobo runs. But also, like, when he was talking to Aubrey, like, all these other ghosts started popping up, because I guess, like I said, I'm curious, is it just because of the lowered veil, or does his powers kind of naturally go out of whack? Is he, like, acting as a beacon to like spirits that like, yo, come here, it's me, like something's going on here? Especially because there was something underneath like the place, like red light started coming up between like the floorboards, and then at the very end of the episode he's looking in and you see some shadowy figures against the windows and like the entire house through the window glass, as well as like underneath all of it's glowing red. And it's just like, what does that mean? What is that about? Like, is that something specific, like evil, that he kind of got in tune with? Like, maybe there's something sealed within Midnight Texas, or just something evil in general that's kind of being drawn to him for whatever reason. Got a real display of what Fiji can do when she literally lifted up a police car and she was crumpling it up like paper, and immediately they were telling her to calm down, they can find a different way to handle this, and she just lets go, and it just boom, boom, boom. And that one cop was like, okay, yeah, we're getting out here. It's like, don't be stupid that she's got magic powers. It's like, how the hell are you telling me she's not a witch, considering what she's doing right now? Is this really natural to you? Just crank the damn carpet and let's get out of here. Also seems like she has a huge thing for Bobo too, because everyone kind of looks at Aubrey as kind of trouble. It's because it's like she caused trouble when she was alive. Maybe there was an exact reason why she got married to Bobo. Apparently there's like a whole money situation, because the Sons of Lucifer actually think Bobo did it, but Bobo is under the impression that the Sons of Lucifer did it just because of the whole like her being married situation. So they haven't been able to track down her other husband. So I mean, Bobo gets arrested because the gun that they found thanks to Manfred ended up leading back to him. So I don't know. I was kind of expecting the whole murder mystery aspect. I was like, oh, this is our first case. And I thought it was like, oh, it's going to be settled this episode. Apparently not. And because it does seem like they are setting him up to be kind of a psychic detective type of situation, I am curious, does that mean he will be working with the cops on more than a few occasions? I think it's going to be like he's going to work as kind of the liaison for solving crimes in Midnight. It seems like they're setting him up. Like I said, a lot of this episode is very much set up. But already the show has already grabbed my attention. I'm very curious to see like how far this whole Aubrey storyline goes. Will it just be a next week's episode thing, you know, just a two-parter like that, or will it kind of fill out the rest of the season or something? I'm curious. I am very excited to continue watching the show. It is like the premise of it already caught my attention before, but I'm even more intrigued now. So we'll just have to wait till next week's episode to really find out, you know, more about Midnight as well as what's going on with this whole situation. And now moving on to the series premiere of Somewhere Between. A very good premiere. Obviously, it plays a lot. The episode was mainly a lot of setup, kind of getting introduced to the characters and basically the story of the show, which I kind of already knew the story of this show going into it. But there was a lot of things I didn't know where certain things. I was like Devin Sawa's character, Nico. Had no idea like what his particular what role he played in the show. Just knew he was in the show. Like I knew that Serena would die. Like, I mean, the circumstances too. I thought she'd be an older child. I thought she'd be like a teenager that died. I didn't know it was going to be a little girl that died. Also, I thought it'd be an accident, not realizing she was going to be murdered. I didn't think about the whole murdered angle until like the episode pops up and we find out like there's a serial killer on the loose and stuff like that. Even the circumstances around how Laura kind of goes back in time. She killed herself, and then a light shines on her and she just wakes up on the shore. So she feels the rocks in her jacket, so she knows it wasn't a dream, so she knows it was real. But now she's seeing all the events unfold. It's a situation of like, it seems like the big focus of this is going to be fate and destiny, because she ended up meeting that lady at the tea shop, and I don't know the actress's name. I see her in not everything, but I've seen her in quite a few things. I can't quite place her though. So, but that it's basically the lady from the tea shop. It's like, this is your fate, your destiny. It was written in stone way before you were born, and that basically the circumstances are going to be like, she's going to lose something that she holds the most important thing to her by water. And if she wants to get it back, the only way to fight back is you can't change destiny, but you can fight it head on. And it basically, she has to remember, for one to live, one must die. So now it turns into, like, I mean, the whole series, like, immediately from this very first episode has already set the tone for the rest of the season, immediately telling you, like, hey, every little thing that happens, every little thing in this show is connected, and, you know, that there is a big picture here, and there are little minute pieces all flowing together to get that big picture. Like, for example, you take Nico and Jenny breaking into their house. Like, obviously, it was they got the wrong address because they were going after someone else entirely. Also, really quickly, that Nico being kind of a licensed private eye type of thing, and the fact that he was a former detective, I didn't know how. I figured he was just going to be like a character. Like I said, I went into this knowing nothing about his character, so I was thinking like, oh, he'd be some guy helping, some random guy that helps her out. And then I was like, oh, is he actually a bad guy that Tom owes money to? So is he like a bad guy? And it's like, no, they were at the wrong address. So, but the fact is that he shows up at that place because his brother was prosecuted by Laura's husband, Tom, played by J.R. Bourne, or as I know him as Papa Argent on Teen Wolf. I had no idea he was actually in the show. But nevertheless, his brother's on death row, he's about to be sentenced to death for some murders he's accused of. I mean, well, he kind of confessed to it. It's a whole thing, but it's like, I just happened to go to the wrong house, which led to me to be in the house of the guy that prosecuted my brother. Like, what are the chances of that? Obviously, he had no idea until like the captain at the police station actually informed him. He was like, "Wait, what? How did that happen?" Because, like I say, it's a long list of things, like the whole situation with him and that married woman. Like, he got hired by her. Basically, he got quote unquote drunk, but the moment he woke up, something happened. He's like, "Oh, we did what?" It seemed more like he was drugged, because it was like one drink and boom, like next hard cut to them in bed together and him waking up like, wait, what? So there's more to that. Plus there's a whole like situation even around Serena disappearing or getting kidnapped. Like, Mira got a phone call from somebody that kind of distracted her, the reason why she wasn't dedicated on paying attention to Serena, and it was just like a little bit away from the car. So in that one moment, because you even see it from one camera frame to the next, like when they're checking the security tapes later on, like he grabbed her in that moment, because like Barry wasn't paying attention neither. So it's like, I mean, for one, it shows you how well timed that is, but also it seems the reason why he went after her specifically is because Laura has this kind of a newscast show, or at least it seems, I don't know, I guess it seems like she might be kind of a producer, kind of similar to Notorious in a sense. Like, she might have the same job as kind of Julia, at least that's how it looks, but she's always gotten like, okay, we're going to get this guy, like, she kind of wants to help, you know, so I don't know whether it's kind of like she runs the station or whatever, but is that why he specifically targeted her? I mean, because it also seemed like he was kind of giving a middle finger to, like, because this is all about, because the whole Danny situation with him is the fact is that this is all about, you know, deterring people from committing crimes or, you know, doing bad things by bringing the death sentence back. And Danny's supposed to be the first one up. His mom struggling to get everything in order, like trying to bring stuff to Tom, even to Laura, to give to Tom, to be like, show you like, hey, things weren't right about my son. Like, my son was the only white male put into this whole situation in the lineup. He was shorter than everyone else in the lineup. Like, saying things were stacked against him, because Danny seems to have like a mental, you know, issue that they're like, there's no way he actually had the intellect to commit the crimes. It also seems like Nico might have a connection to, or not might, definitely has a connection to Susanna, who was one of the ladies that that Danny was accused of killing. So it seems like he's kind of cut off ties with his brother, because it was actually him, in fact, who testified against him. But that's because, as we saw in the flashback, his brother brought her body to him. So I think there's a combination of guilt, because like his testimony kind of put his brother in jail. But at the same time, we saw him and Suzanne kissing and making out in bed. So it's like, was that before? Was that during? What was that situation? So it might not even been a situation of like, I mean, I think they said Suzanne was his wife, so maybe they were having an affair type of thing, but nevertheless. And then on top of it, you have all these other killings happening present day, which it seems like there's a symbol of a Cerberus there at one point, like by one of the bodies. There was like a red circle thing and then like 3 dog heads on it, so immediately like Cerberus. I mean, what even makes that situation even sadder? I mean, besides the fact that it just happened in a mere moment, it took moments for their lives to fall apart, was also because like there was problems between Serena and Laura, simply because Laura wouldn't really explain to her why she couldn't really hang out with Ruby. It's because like, well, Ruby's the daughter of the guy that your dad is sending to jail and he's going to die, but she doesn't want to, explain that to Serena, because it's like she's a little girl and everything. So her and her mom kind of haven't been getting along throughout the episode a little bit. I mean, it's like they make up, but they fight again, because she has to be the strict mom, while dad gets to be the cool dad and everything. Like, oh, she didn't do her homework, I have to be the one to kind of like be harsher to her and everything. So I think because they weren't 100% on the same level with each other, Serena and Laura, I think that makes maybe her feel even guiltier, especially later on. It's been like 3 months, and Tom is picking up the stuff, and Laura's like, "What the hell are you doing?" He's like, I can't keep looking at it. We got to give these toys to someone else, because for him it's a reminder." And she's like, "Oh, you can't do that. You want to pretend like she didn't exist." And he's like, "When I look at you," she's like, you blame me because it's my fault because I sent her down there." It's like, I'm not going to say that. It's just the fact of the matter. What he was trying to say, they're broken. And you can't blame them. Everyone has their own different way of dealing with grief. It seems like she spent most of her time in Serena's room, but he couldn't do it. He couldn't keep looking at those things because they were constant reminders of what he lost. And, he felt like they do some good to someone else and maybe in a way ease his own pain. But, just like they're like, Laura lashes out a little bit, but just because she lost her baby girl, And then there's also the things that were found on her body, what is it, like, was it flower, like thorns or something? She had flowers and thorns she had drawn, a race car. There was just weird stuff on her, and they were like, why she wouldn't have that, a safety pin. She doesn't like car toys. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So kind of brought it up earlier, but like going back to it, Nico's side of things, where it's like him being a former detective and everything, that's definitely interesting, like understanding why. I wonder, is it because of his brother's situation that he's no longer a detective? We haven't really dived into that yet. But even Jenny's like, yeah, like the fact is I was caught and I was arrested, but I wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for you, because you let me go for whatever reason. So it seems like they're partners now. I don't think it's like a dating partnership, but I think it is like a, we got each other's back, we work together partnership. So, but I mean, it's just so unfortunate because he was trying to see his brother, because he has 1 hour left before his brother got executed. But he couldn't get there because of the whole, potentially being murdered situation. So that sucked. All because of that whole quote-unquote affair situation. So I'm very interested to see, like, more of this show. Like I said, a lot of this episode was just context of just introducing you to the characters, kind of finding out the dynamics a little bit and the connections between everybody. But it seems like that will be the biggest part going forward in the show. It's like figuring out how all these dominoes lead to everything, because they went out of their way to kind of focus on certain things to make you go, oh, here's something you might want to keep note of. It might not mean anything right now because it is literally the first episode, but it's like, oh, we'll sprinkle this in here and we'll sprinkle this in there, So for, like, I brought up some stuff already. I'm like, oh, some stuff here and there that you kind of can't help but notice. But especially, like, that one big thing is that whole thing with Nico and the drink. I feel like there was something there. Ruby and Serena actually meeting and bonding, and kind of the whole camera situation too. Her camera being broken is the last thing she has to remember her dad. We don't know anything about her mom so far either. So I'm also curious to see how they handle this, how Laura handles the situation of knowing what's going to happen, because it's also going to be a situation of like, That's the thing we're gonna have to find out is like, do things change immediately? Like if she kind of like where is she supposed to go left here and she decides to swerve right? Do things still lead to that point anyway? Does it like find its way of still happening anyway? Or is it a situation of like the moment she changes back? Because it's going to be a situation of her being like, no, I totally know what's happening. This is about to happen and this is about to happen. And it's like, oh, something else completely different happens, making her seem crazy. Because, you know, that's something she's going to have to struggle with because it's like, okay, you've been acting a little erratic lately. You talked about our daughter being dead. She died a week after you are. It's like, you know, her husband's going to get a little worried and try to get her like some professional help. But it's like, who can you really rely on in this situation? It seems like that's going to be Nico. But like, what those circumstances, how those circumstances go about to leading to that, I don't know. And what does Danny's whole case have to do with this too? Because I mean, literally all three deaths, Danny, Laura, and Nico, all three roughly happened around the same time. So I was actually starting to wonder, since they were actually in the same water, I was like, is it going to be that Nico ends up getting away and he ends up seeing Laura and ends up saving her or something, and somehow gets mixed up in it? I thought like, oh, first I was like, oh, maybe he goes back in time too. So at the very least too, I made a comparison because obviously this TV show is an adaptation of a Korean show called God's Gift, 14 Days. It seems like she's actually got less time because the show was called 14 Days because the mom in that particular show went back in time 14 days. They said like she died a week after her birthday, so at the very least, it seems like they're crunching the time down even more to make it seem like she only has a week. I mean, granted, maybe it's a situation where it's like she meant like literally the next week, so maybe she actually has a little bit more time. I don't know. I feel like they would have said like 2 weeks. They said like a week after my birthday. So I'm thinking at the very least she has like 7 days to try and, you know, figure this out. Like I said, she does seem like she has some kind of training or something because it does run like a network and it's like, oh yeah, we're going to be the ones to help catch this guy. So, and also I'm curious to see immediately like how this goes about. Will it be like she can time travel, like goes to that point and she can time travel, or will the entire show focus on those 7 days? Because once again, I brought it up earlier, one has to die so one can live. So she can fight things, but it will cost somebody else's life. Now, I think they've set it up to be like maybe it'll cost someone that we've come to know in this big mystery, or maybe it'll cost the life of someone she doesn't know. And that will ultimately be the thing. Will she be willing to pay the price, you know, when it's all said and done? Like I said, this is just the first episode, so we really won't know more until more episodes go by, as well as, the rest of the season goes by, like kind of to get a really true feel of everything else in this show, like how Laura will handle this situation. Once again, like whether there'll be a lot more time travel or is it just a one-off thing. I went into this thinking it was going to be a one-off thing, but we'll see. Also, what's up with that Tita lady too? The one who set all this in motion, because like, I also like that effect too immediately. It's something that kind of alluded to it, even at the beginning of the episode, like when Serena fell and knocked over that vase and stuff. When Laura went over to the picture had Serena and her that they took at a tea shop, and Serena was kind of like fading in and out of the picture, and like Laura's kind of like, what? And then she goes over to the picture at the end of the episode and Serena's completely gone from it. But at the same time, it's like that store, was it like Laura was like, yeah, I never noticed this store before. So, and she was also at the execution too. So it's like, what does that mean? Because it had this moment of like when they broke down in front of the place, the lights turned on, like kind of like flickered on beforehand. So like I said, running my mouth off about this, I apologize. But I'm very interested to see how this all plays out. There will be a new episode tomorrow. By the time you're listening to this, it will be today. It seems like Tuesday will be its regular nights from now on. So same time, just different nights. So Tuesdays from now on, and there will be a new episode tomorrow. So do keep that in mind. So I'm very excited to see what goes on in the next episode. It was a very like somber beginning. Obviously, like it's kind of hard to start off a show with such a heartbreaking thing, especially because it's not like it happened at the beginning of the episode and you're kind of dealing with it. It's like, no, it happens in a smack dab in the middle. You get accustomed to the characters, get to know their life situation, and then you have this tragedy strike. So, but really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, enjoy it. Good day and goodbye. Bye.